The invisible hand has a rhythm section. Markets move in predictable patterns. There, I said it. Financial blasphemy, I know. It's like announcing at an economist convention that invisible market forces actually wear sequined jumpsuits and follow choreography. While academics with elbow patches debate whether markets are efficient or random, the evidence is as subtle as a drunk flamingo at a penguin convention. Markets dance to rhythms so consistent you could DJ a club night with them. Most people miss these beats because they're too busy panic selling their life savings at historical bottoms or FOMO buying garbage stocks at record highs because their barber's cousin's roommate heard something on Reddit. It's like watching someone repeatedly slam their hand in a car door while insisting, "No pattern here, totally random pain." These aren't just random wiggles on a chart or millions of independent decisions creating financial white noise. There's a deeper structure here, a hidden architecture of money flows, confidence cycles, and mathematical patterns that repeat with such regularity, it makes you wonder if God is just running the same simulation over and over while making minor tweaks to see if anyone notices. Understanding these rhythms isn't just for socially awkward finance nerds who spent college Friday nights with spreadsheets instead of keg stands. It's the difference between being the one person who packs an umbrella before the surprise storm or the one who leaves the party right before the cops arrive. In market terms, it's about keeping your wealth while everyone else is losing their shirts, pants, underwear, and possibly their dignity on national television. Capital flows. Money doesn't disappear, it just goes to better parties. First things first. Capital flow dynamics are the foundation of market movements. Money moves globally like a hyper-caffeinated squirrel with ADHD, constantly seeking safety and returns. These flows aren't driven purely by profit. They're driven by confidence, which is basically high school popularity contests with trillion-dollar stakes instead of who gets to sit at the cool lunch table. When confidence in one region or asset falls, capital flees faster than teenagers evacuating a party when parents come home early. It's like a global game of musical chairs, except the music plays at different speeds in different countries. And some chairs are actually elaborate traps designed by investment bankers with yacht payments due. These flows create self-reinforcing trends that persist for years or decades. Remember the Asian financial crisis in 1997? Capital fled Thailand, Indonesia, and South Korea faster than cockroaches when the kitchen light comes on. Where did it go? Into US tech stocks, fueling the dot-com bubble where pets.com somehow convinced people that delivering 50-pound bags of dog food for free was a sustainable business model. When that bubble burst in 2000, the money flooded into housing, creating a real estate bubble where ninja loans, no income, no job, no assets, seemed like a brilliant idea until they suddenly, shockingly weren't. Money doesn't vanish. It relocates like your ex who's suddenly finding themselves in Bali. Understanding where it's going and why is like having a financial GPS while everyone else is using maps drawn by drunk cartographers during the Middle Ages. Wave patterns, the market's secret heartbeat. Second, market cycles follow complex wave patterns that would make a quantum physicist reach for the tequila. Short-term cycles of approximately 8.5 years build into larger waves, creating predictable patterns that repeat throughout history with the stubborn persistence of that one relative who still forwards chain emails. What makes these cycles particularly powerful is when multiple cycles converge at critical turning points, often leading to dramatic market shifts that leave financial pundits on CNBC stammering about black swan events that were actually as predictable as the plot of a Hallmark Christmas movie. Spoiler alert, the big city career woman falls for the small town handyman with a heart of gold every single time period. The 2008 financial crisis wasn't some freak accident. It was the convergence of multiple cycles reaching their peaks simultaneously. The housing cycle, the credit cycle, the confidence cycle, and the broader economic cycle all maxed out together like the world's most destructive boy band. The result? Financial Armageddon that somehow surprised everyone except the 12 people who actually paid attention to these cycles and that weird guy at the office who kept his money in gold and canned beans. Confidence, the ultimate market aphrodisiac. Third, confidence cycles drive shifts between public and private markets with the regularity of a metronome on amphetamines. When people lose faith in government institutions, they move capital to private assets faster than cats avoiding bath time. Conversely, when they lose confidence in markets, they seek the perceived safety of government protection, like college graduates moving back home after discovering rent costs more than ramen. These shifts create predictable market patterns that repeat throughout history. The 1970s saw collapsing confidence in government, driving a boom in gold, real estate, and collectibles. Remember when people thought Beanie Babies were a legitimate investment strategy? The 1980s and 1990s saw rising confidence in markets, fueling a bull market so long that people started believing stocks only go up, which is like believing calories don't count on your birthday. The 2008 crisis shattered market confidence, sending everyone scrambling for government bonds despite yields so low you needed an electron microscope to see them. It was like paying someone to hold your money while they slowly set fire to it, and investors lined up for the privilege. Now, we're seeing confidence in government institutions eroding faster than a sandcastle during hurricane season. Central banks have printed so much money they've probably given their printers PTSD. Governments are running deficits that make drunken sailors look like financial planners. And public trust in these institutions is plummeting like a lead balloon in a gravity experiment conducted by particularly enthusiastic physicists. The result? Capital is seeking private alternatives: crypto, gold, real estate, private equity, anything outside the traditional system. It's not because these assets are inherently better, it's because they're perceived as being beyond the reach of governments that increasingly look like they're making policy by throwing darts at a board while blindfolded and spinning. Timing, when matters more than how much. Timing plays a crucial role in understanding market rhythms. Often, timing is more important than price, which is why so many value investors end up catching falling knives and slicing their financial fingers off while muttering, "But the PE ratio was so reasonable," as they bleed out. Specific dates can mark major turns, especially when multiple cycles converge. These convergences create powerful moves that can reshape entire markets faster than a celebrity tweet can tank a stock. Economic events echo through decades, creating patterns that repeat at different scales, like financial fractals designed specifically to separate you from your money. Take March 2020, for example. The COVID crash wasn't just about a pandemic. It was the convergence of multiple technical cycles already pointing to a major correction. The pandemic was just the match that lit the fuse on a bomb that was already ticking louder than your biological clock at a family reunion. And now we're staring at March 2025. A date where multiple major cycles converge again, like the Avengers assembling for a particularly destructive sequel. Is it a coincidence that banks and institutional investors are quietly positioning for what they're calling a significant market event around that time? About as coincidental as finding your teenager next to an empty liquor cabinet with slurred speech and claiming they have no idea what happened. Warning signs. The market's distress signals. Warning signs of major market shifts include unusual capital flow patterns, multiple technical indicators converging, loss of confidence in institutions, and sudden changes in market behavior. These signals, when combined, often precede significant market movements, the way animals fleeing inland precede a tsunami, or the way your dog hiding under the bed precedes a thunderstorm. Right now, we're seeing all these warning signs flashing red like a Christmas tree made entirely of alarm buttons and anxiety. European banks are showing stress levels that make 2008 look like a spa day. Capital is fleeing the European banking system faster than passengers abandoning the Titanic after the iceberg meet and greet. Technical indicators are pointing to March 2025 as a critical turning point that has institutional investors quietly moving billions into alternative assets while publicly telling everyone that everything is fine, which is exactly what the captain of the Hindenburg probably said right before takeoff. Currency markets are sending distress signals that would be obvious if anyone was actually paying attention instead of watching TikTok videos of people dancing to songs about economic prosperity. The euro is testing critical support levels that have held for decades. The British pound is breaking below key thresholds faster than British prime ministers break promises or their political careers. The dollar is strengthening despite domestic issues that would normally tank a currency simply because every other option looks worse. It's the least ugly contestant in an ugly contest where everyone has also been hit with an ugly stick. The big picture. It's all connected. And it's all cyclical. This framework helps understand why markets move beyond simple technical analysis or fundamental factors. It's about recognizing the deeper forces driving capital flows and market behavior, allowing investors to position themselves ahead of major market moves rather than reacting to them after the fact, which is the financial equivalent of installing a burglar alarm after your house has been emptied by thieves who also left you a thank you note and a poor Yelp review for your security system. Markets aren't random, and they aren't efficient in the way academics claim while sipping sherry in faculty lounges. They're cyclical, rhythmic, and driven by patterns that repeat throughout history because human psychology doesn't change, even if the technology we use to make the same old mistakes evolves from carrier pigeons to high-frequency trading algorithms that can lose your money at the speed of light. Understanding these hidden rhythms isn't about predicting every market wiggle. It's about seeing the bigger picture, the forest instead of the trees, the symphony instead of individual notes. It's about recognizing that what seems like chaos actually has an underlying order, if you know what to look for and aren't distracted by financial media screaming about whatever shiny object is trending that day. And right now, that underlying order is pointing to a major shift coming, a convergence of cycles, a transition, a big wave that could reshape the financial landscape in ways that will leave conventional investors wondering what hit them, while those who understood the rhythm nod knowingly from the safety of their well-positioned portfolios, possibly while sipping something expensive and feeling smugly vindicated. As Gerald the Depression Pigeon would say, if he could speak instead of just cooing pessimistically while organising his emergency breadcrumb stash. The patterns are there if you're willing to see them. The question is whether you'll act on what you see or join the crowd in being surprised by the inevitable. And Gerald, despite his perpetual gloom and tiny market cycles expert badge that's slightly askew on his feathered chest, has survived more market cycles than most human investors. So perhaps his melancholy wisdom is worth considering. The hidden rhythm of markets isn't just an interesting theory. It's the financial equivalent of a tsunami warning system. You can heed the warning and move to higher ground, or you can stay on the beach admiring how far the tide has gone out and collecting pretty shells until the wall of water arrives. The choice, as always, is yours. Just don't say a depressed pigeon didn't warn you.